Right, hello to everybody just joining. This is going to be another stream that I probably only do for about an hour, just with the blank background, because this way it's easier for me actually to read comments and reply to people. I've also put a disclaimer in the description, so now, from now on, anybody who tries to derail these into sort of political sort of arguments or stuff like that is just going to get instantly blocked, because I'm getting sick of warning people not to do that. So, there you go. My hay fever's a bit bad today, so apologies if I sound a bit funny. That's just because of that, and as I said, I'll only do it for about an hour. And if any trolls start trying to raid the stream, I'm going to block them, but what I'll do is I'll basically don't anybody respond to them, because that's obviously what they want, so we'll just block them and carry on the conversation anyway. I have no idea. If you're in Vietnam, you'll just have to look on international versions of eBay or whatever and see where people will ship from, but you won't be able to buy from the US to anywhere else with gas masks or military equipment, because that's banned under US sort of laws. That's the same reason I can't buy an M40 or whatever else. S10s are about £30 to £50, so that's like 40 to 60 euros or something. They're not that expensive. As I keep saying to everybody, just use international eBay. If they don't turn up, you can't get one, simple as. You just have to keep looking on various versions of eBay that ship worldwide. Yeah, no worries, but yeah. There's no magic way of getting them, just like with the US masks. I can only get them when they eventually turn up for sale. Why there's not loads of people in here, I'll put the slow mode down to less time per thing. Right, I'll try it on 20 seconds for a while and see how that goes. When you say FM15, do you mean the FM12? There's no such thing as the FM15, Charles, but the FM12 is probably better than the S10. It's kind of like the S10 too. The Airsoft question gets asked in every stream, so I'm not going to keep answering this. I've done sort of several videos covering this, but the short answer is only if I get the time to do it and can arrange to do it, but Airsoft is not very easy to do in the UK due to not many sites and they don't run it all the time. But that's a question that gets asked every stream, and I have to answer every stream. That's why it's a bit of an annoying question for me. I think, as I said, apologies if I sound a bit funny. It's because my hay fever's not great today, because it's a sunny, bright day, lots of pollen everywhere. So I'm going to sound a bit sort of throaty or whatever. Yeah, no worries. It's just like, as I said, it's one of those questions that gets asked every stream, and then often it will get asked several times during the stream when I've already answered it. So I don't mind giving a quick explanation, but as there's a lot more detailed explanations out there. But it's just one of those things that, as I said, will get irritating when you're doing a stream and then you keep getting that question over. It's like when people say, what's your favourite gas mask? Yeah, there's archery videos on my channel. I don't do it properly. But I have got several bows, and I shoot them now and again. Now the weather's nice. This is kind of like when I go out and do it, but as I said, the problem is when you get hay fever, suddenly nice weather isn't actually that nice. I prefer it when it's cold and in the winter, but actually just not raining. Yeah, I have an airsoft gun. I have several. Like I said, we've already talked about airsoft now, so we don't need to keep bringing it up. But yeah, I just looked, and the pollen count for today is very high pollen, so that's not great. But I've taken antihistamines, but they only do so much. I got on eBay. There was a UK seller that somehow had an XM28, which is pretty rare. So the XM28 filters, like the mask with the filters already in there, they're pretty much totally expired. But yeah, that was about £100. That's the most I've ever paid on a mask, because that was, you know, it's almost impossible to get XM28s in the UK. They're rare enough in the States, so then the chance of it turning up outside the US is quite low indeed. So yeah, the background is a picture of the GSR. It should be obvious because it's the big picture in the stream. It's not a mask I like, so everybody always says every stream, then why is it your picture? Well, it's my picture just because it looks cool. It doesn't, you know, when a mask is only there as a picture, it can look as cool as it wants, even if it's non-functional. And again, that was a mask I paid a lot for, and that was a waste of money. Hello. I just had to translate that to see that you were saying good day. I played Black Mesa when it was free. But yeah, I've not bothered buying the full version because they've not even finished it, have they? So I just did the free version. It was on ModDB a while ago. My worst injury was where I fell over, broke my arm, and had a compound fracture on 2 bones, so 2 bones was sticking out of my left arm. Alright, Mike, yeah, so far the chat's been absolutely fine. I tried putting it onto approved messages only, and that's done nothing, so that feature doesn't work at all. Everybody still posts as normal. So if you're doing your streams, just as a heads up, that's not going to do anything. You'll either have to have chat completely off or just chat completely on. At the moment, because the chat's still clean and everything, and there's not loads of people on, I've got slow mode set to 20 seconds, but I'll change that accordingly. So I'll probably not go over an hour. I've been on for about 7 minutes, but I was saying to a few other people my hay fever's been playing up a bit today, and everything else, so it's probably not going to be, you know, great to... I'll have a look Dark Shadow, but no, I don't know anything about that. I'll Google it to see if anything interesting comes up. Oh, so is that the Italian counter-terrorism stuff? No, I'm afraid I don't really know anything about them at all, to be honest. I'm sure they're pretty good though, but yeah, like I said, I don't know much about them at all. Because you only really hear about things like the American ones and the UK ones, maybe things like Spetsnaz as well, but yeah, I've been to quite a lot of places in Europe. I'm trying to think if I've been to anywhere outside of Europe, or at least, you know, far outside of Europe, other than like little islands that technically wouldn't be in Europe. But as far as I'm aware, I've only ever been to Europe. But obviously, if I could... Yeah, I've been to Wales several times because I can just drive to Wales. It's, you know, only like an hour or so in the car drive to go to Wales. So that's very easy to get to Wales. But yeah, obviously, where I'd really like to go, and as I've said, if I eventually save up enough to do it, I definitely want to go to the US and do a lot of shooting over there. Because, as a lot of you know, I really like America. But, yeah, it's quite expensive to do that. And at the moment, I have to buy a new car and whatever else, so I need to be very careful with my money. I don't care about the royal family at all. You're next. So, yeah, you know. Apparently they bring in tourism money, but I reckon they cost the taxpayers more. So, you know. So I don't have anything against them, but I'm not pro-royal family either. So, you know, I don't really have an opinion on them, to be honest. But, you know, I have no interest in stuff like the royal wedding. If a Draeger M2000 gets very cheap, I will. Let me have a quick look on eBay and see how much they are. But as I said, I've got to buy my new car in like 2 weeks. So I definitely need a lot of money for that. And then once that's done, you know, I can start saving up for masks again and stuff like that. Currently, I can't see any M2000 masks on eBay. So let me just take the Draeger out and just try M2000. There's one on there, but it's £100 as a starting bid, and then it's postage on it, so no interest in that. There's an M40 on eBay at the moment, but that's £130, so again, I would not spend that on an M40. I'm just seeing if there's anything else of interest on eBay. If I search gas mask, you won't have seen the videos on it. That's annoying. There's an actual Avon M50 for sale, but it's £150 plus postage, and that's the starting bid. So I certainly wouldn't pay that for it. You know, I don't think I'd ever go over £100 on a mask, but yeah, I'm just sort of looking on eBay at the moment to see if there's any interesting masks, but obviously lots of the ones I have. For anybody interested, there's an FM12 currently coming up in the UK for £40 with free postage. So, you know, if you wanted to get an FM12 in the UK, you can do that for a good price. There's Belgium BEM 4GP masks for £30 odd with free postage and the carry bag. Some S10s for about £20 on there. So there's a few different well-priced masks on eBay at the moment, but just not ones that I've got. I can't remember if I've said, because the videos are scheduled. I've got some scheduled videos up from more stuff B-Stores sent me, so some of that would probably really interest a lot of people on here. Again, but sort of they're going to be scheduled over sort of various time periods. My Mark 7 helmet came this morning as well, so I've done a video on the Mark 7 helmet, and that's really good. That's going to be my actual, you know, combat helmet if I ever need one now. Dark Shadow with medieval armour, that totally depends on, I can have a look on German eBay, mate, but I still think with the postage it would be not really cheap, and the issue is, I've said before, I don't like buying stuff if it's expensive from overseas because customers have stolen my parcels before, which is really annoying. So there's that. What else was I saying about medieval armour? It really varied. Some of it was a few millimetres thick, some of it was a lot thicker. It depended if it was light or heavy armour, what sort of armour it was. I'm just getting the Dacia Sandero, the top end model, because you can get them for under £10,000, totally brand new and everything. So for what it is, it's a very decent car. I basically just want a car that I can buy and like have for like over 10 years and keep it going. You know, so like sinking a load of money in, but just, you know, keep it till it falls apart. Because my Golf's 18 years old now, so that should give you an idea how long I've got that car to last. But as I said, I'm going to have to be selling it now just because it's getting to be too much of a money sink, so it's actually cheaper to buy a new car than keeping it on the road. Like I was saying, for masks I want to get, but so far haven't been able to get, or they're too expensive. The US M40, the Avon M50, or the C50, but I particularly want the M50 because I'm interested in its unique filters, and like, yeah, the M2000 and the Canadian C4, especially because the Canadian C4, lots of people have told me, is like the best mask of like the S10's generation because it's like an even better S10. But again, I'll just buy them when I see them at good prices. If you wait long enough, all these things eventually turn up at good prices. Before YouTube, I used to work in a warehouse, so that was, you know, just over minimum wage, wasn't great. Obviously, if you're working like 20 to 40 hours a week doing that, even on minimum wage, you're going to earn more than you would on something like YouTube for a channel my size. But obviously for YouTube I get much better money in terms of like hours worked for hours pay, if that makes sense. Oh, apologising in the background, the clock that makes the bird sounds has just gone off for the hour, so that's why that's making a noise. Yeah, we don't really get many American cars here. Obviously we get like Fords and Chevrolets and that over here, but they're like almost European models of cars they make, because very few people would drive big like Mustangs and things like that over here, because petrol, gasoline just costs too much here. I'm 24, I'll be 25 in a couple of months. So yeah, over in the UK most people just drive like the small city cars for the most part, unless they get saloon cars. You know, just simply because the cost of fuel here is so much higher than the States, it's ridiculous that, you know, you want a car that's fuel efficient really, not anything else. And that's another good thing about the Sandero I'm getting. The fuel economy is much better than my Golf, so my Golf wasn't bad for, you know, like a hot hatch. It had surprisingly good fuel economy to Mark IV GTI, but, you know, this is going to be even better still, so I'm looking forward to that. That, you know, every time I fill my car up with petrol, I can actually go further without having to put more in, which I'm definitely looking forward to. Save me more money, and the insurance will be cheaper and everything else. So, other than the big initial cost, it will mean, you know, much less money being spent per month on the car. I like a lot of the historical German stuff, like Prussia and that. Obviously, I do not like the Nazis, which I need to stress, because I think a lot of people think I'm, like, you know, a Hitler fanboy, which I'm really not. But I do like a lot of, like, the stylishness of that sort of stuff. Like, you know, like, I think a lot of the, like, even with the Nazis, they were evil bastards, but they had such nice looking uniforms, and I think pretty much everyone admits that. But I do like a lot of the German engineering and the German designs, because, you know, Germans are very good at designing stuff. They're some of the best engineers in the world. That's one of the things I like about Germans, how well they build stuff. And obviously I have no problem with Germans today, because, you know, modern Germans are not Nazis. But, you know, I don't want to get too sidetracked into talking about that. Well, a martini I might get at some point, Philip, because, yeah, in the UK, this is the interesting thing. If you have firearms that are no longer in a caliber that's common, obsolete caliber firearms, you can legally own them and ammunition. You just can't shoot them without a firearms license. But the nice thing about, you know, that is that basically, what, like, other people replying to my comment on the Forgotten Weapons video, when the first person, you know, inevitably said, you know, like, about the, thing like, oh no, that's a felony if you get it and shoot it. It's like, well, no, what you can actually do in the UK is you can get the gun and the ammunition totally legally without a firearms license. You can apply for a firearms license. If you get it, you can shoot the gun on the license, and then when the license expires, if you don't renew it or whatever else, or you lose your license, you can still keep the gun. It's not like you've got a gun that's actually classed as a firearm, which is one of the really cool things, you know, about the obsolete firearms, in a sense. Yeah, that's the thing with the C4, and with the C4 you have to get the second gen of it, don't you? Because I think the first generation of C4s had a bad glue, and that's why they changed the colour of them to distinguish, like, the Mark II model, not the Mark I C4. Generally a lightweight filter on the mask is better, but the advantage of a filter in a bag is obviously the filter lasts longer. No, I've not been to the Netherlands, sadly. I'll try and list all the countries I've been to. So I've been to Scotland and Wales, haven't been to Ireland for some reason, but I ought to go there. So in the UK, I've been to Scotland, Wales, I've been to, I think, like, the Isle of Man and a lot of those, which are technically, you know, in the UK, but they're not England, obviously. I've been to France, I've been to Germany, I've been to Austria, I've been to Spain, I've been to Portugal, I've been to a lot of the Spanish islands and Madeira. I have been to Poland, Hungary, the Czech Republic, Slovakia. I'm trying to think if I've been to anywhere else over there. Austria, I can't remember if I mentioned Austria. Greece, I've been to, especially, like, Rhodes. Can't remember if I went to mainland Greece or just Rhodes, but I definitely went to Rhodes. Well, I've been to a lot of different places in Europe, but no, I haven't actually been to Belgium as far as I'm aware, or Netherlands. Oh, I've been to Norway and Finland as well, before I forget. Yeah, like I said, I'll be streaming for an hour, so if it goes over the hour, I'll probably head off, and as I said, sorry for sounding a bit snotty and bunged up, but can't do anything about that with my hay fever, unfortunately. As I was saying, that's the curse of hay fever. If you get a day with nice weather, often the hay fever's bad. That's why I like the winter when it's colder, to be honest. Oh yeah, I've had Belgian waffles. Belgian waffles are nice. The thing is, I don't like doing videos too much on stuff that's not related to my channel, because my morning routine, I'll tell you on the live stream, I get up when I actually have the energy to get up, because I'm a bit of an insomniac, and as much as I try to get up early all the time, I always end up, you know, falling asleep really late and waking up really late. I think I'm just naturally like a night owl. So I get up, mix myself some very strong coffee, you know, brush my teeth, have a shower or wash or whatever, get dressed. That's when I think about doing a video for the day, or 2 videos. So I film the videos, I edit them, I upload them, and then a lot of the day I've got free. I clean the rabbits out and stuff like that, you know, do the stuff with my pets. Some days I've got stuff I need to do around the house, like doing washing and stuff like that. But, you know, that's basically my daily routine. I often go out for a walk or exercising or whatever else. But yeah, I don't have a strict daily routine. The good news is one of my friends that's been at university, he's just about finished his 3rd year now, so he'll be back around, so it means I can hang out with him a lot more, because he's actually going to be, you know, not like 100 miles away. Is the Schmidt-Rubin the Swiss one? Because I know there's a couple of Swiss obsolete firearms that are quite cheap in the UK. that turn up easily. At the moment, in my room, it's about 27 degrees. Quite a lot of days recently have been going over 30 degrees. The temperature doesn't bother me, but the humidity. Yeah, don't mention illegal stuff on the channel, because if you do, I'm just going to block you. I don't know what you mean by illegal stuff, but anybody who says anything that's actually breaking the law, you know, gets blocked now just because we can't have people disrupting everything. So I hope you're making a joke. But yeah, there's quite a lot of different obsolete calibers that turn up, but most are fairly different. The Lee Enfield I've got's got the traditional rifle sights, you know, like the two rear bits and the front post, like pistols have, but obviously a lot tighter, like traditional rifle sights. I don't have the one with like the round sight, because I think that's the Mark IV Enfield with like the peep sight. This one's just, you know, the traditional rifle sight. Yeah, the problem with England is when we get hot weather, normally the humidity is really high. So you know, like 70 to 90% humidity. Well, that's not really a serious crime, is it? It's more of a civil offence, pirating stuff, but don't talk about it on the stream. No, I just have to live with my parents, because where I live in the UK, I'm in Oxford. We're the most expensive part of the UK, borderline with London, for house prices. So a really grotty, horrible house here, like 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, would probably be over £300,000. So the problem is, because of the UK's population but small size, housing is pretty much unaffordable to people now, especially if you consider what people are paid. You basically have to inherit a house. So if a load of my friends decided we wanted to rent somewhere in a much cheaper part of the UK, then I'd be up for moving out and renting with friends, if we could bring the price down. However, you know, here's the thing, like I was saying, that it's basically financial suicide in the UK to just decide to rent, especially if in my area, because even if I worked 40 hours a week on a minimum wage job, I probably wouldn't be able to afford rent, let alone utilities. So that's the thing I don't think a lot of people understand with the UK, is just how, you know, the housing market is just awful, basically. Because again, the problem is there's a housing shortage, but we've also got a land shortage. And you're going to destroy even more of the country if you build just more concrete jungles for more and more housing. But really, you know, the UK shouldn't be able to support the population we currently have, just, you know, due to the amount of people that are here now because of medicine. People live longer, lots of people immigrate to the UK. Yeah, slow mode's on, it's on 20 seconds. So, yeah, like I said, Balloony, on the Airsoft question gets asked over and over again, and like I said, I do Airsoft, but not very often, because there's not many sites here to play it on. Yeah, like, the problem is, like I was saying just here, is the humidity. Like, you just sweat really quickly in the UK when it gets hot, and I've been to places like Spain that, you know, are far hotter, especially in the south of Spain, where you're not too far from the coast of Africa. You know, it's just really hot there, but the humidity is much lower, so you actually feel better. You know, if you're too hot, you can just sit in the shade for a bit and you feel fine, whereas in the UK, you just start sweating like a pig after a while, because the humidity is really high, because of all, like, the plants and everything. Alright, Peach. Yeah, I think I said to Simon earlier I went to Slovakia, but I was only in Slovakia for 1 day, because, basically, when I was on a tour of part of Central Europe, it was just, we went into Slovakia, you know, it was like an afternoon stop before going into Hungary. Yeah, that's good if you've got a lot of land, but yeah, this is the thing, the house I live in isn't particularly big, but it's worth quite a lot now, just because of how overpriced UK housing is. Another problem in Oxford, where I live, is because Oxford University is like one of the world famous universities. The problem is, like, the university buys lots of houses to basically turn into student accommodation, so then more and more people are basically being locked out of the you know, like, housing market. It's not Czechoslovakia anymore, mate, it's Czech Republic and Slovakia. Just like Yugoslavia isn't a nation state now, it's obviously Serbia, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, there's a couple of other, Slovenia, and I'm probably going to forget some of the others. Macedonia? That's a former Yugos state, isn't it, as well? But yeah, most of those big block countries will collapse now. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing with a lot of these countries, is it depends. And I said the UK's partly part of the problem in the UK. I was just saying is just because, like I was saying earlier, is just the population density. If you look at how big the UK is, especially England, when I say big, I mean small. The good thing is you can get to most parts of the UK, you know, within a few hours of driving if you wanted to visit somewhere. Oh, it's just whatever, really, mate. That's why I like the blank screen videos, because I can respond better. But yeah, the issue is with the UK, because of the population density on such a small place. If you think England would fit into a lot of the US states, to give you some idea of the size, America has 50 states, and they have, I think, less than 10 times the population of the UK. So, if you begin to think about, that's why in certain places in America you can actually buy housing cheap and everything else, but in the UK you're kind of screwed on the housing market. I'm surprised more people don't, you know, migrate from the UK elsewhere, to be honest, regarding that. I'm surprised you have a cold day in Australia, because it's normally quite hot in Australia, isn't it? You're on the south coast. On my Golf, the fuel economy is like 35 to 40 miles per gallon. On the Dacia Sandero I'm getting, it's meant to be quite easily 50 plus for most of the driving I'd be doing. I think the best fuel economy I've ever got out of my Golf was just over 50, and that was like with lots of motorway driving, just kind of cruising it along between 60 and 70. But yeah, like I say, overall it will be a lot cheaper. I'm just going to have a look South Victoria, whereabouts that is in Australia. Ah yeah, so it is on the south. Near Tasmania then. Yeah, so I suppose if you're as south as possible in Australia, then it's probably going to be, yeah, cooler, because you're getting closer to the Antarctic, aren't you, down there? I wish Google Earth had the lines for where the North Pole and the South Pole start, because that'd be really interesting, but sadly they don't. But yeah, I've been to the Arctic, but only as in going to Finland and Norway to the northern part where you actually cross the line into the Arctic, and I did that in the summer. And speaking of acclimatising to temperature, that was one of the funny things. When I was in Norway and Finland, we were on like a tour with lots of other people from like America and Australia and everything else. And me and my dad, when we were there, we were wearing shorts and t-shirts, because, you know, like a lot of the days were between 0 and 10 degrees in the summer, especially when you get to northern Finland and Norway in the Arctic Circle. And, you know, a lot of the people were really surprised, especially like some of the Americans from states like Texas, that we could, you know, wear shorts and a t-shirt in that sort of weather as well. This is sort of like UK autumn weather. It's quite pleasant, really. Or if you sneeze in a gas mask, a bit of snot gets stuck in the gas mask, but a lot of it just comes out the exhale valves. It's no different than really breathing in and out. Yeah, like Mike's saying, even if you're like on a cheap end housing in lots of area of the UK, it's really expensive. And like I'm saying, housing goes up every year for how much it costs, but wages don't really go up. So in the UK at the moment, I think the minimum wage is like £7.50 or something like that. So if you're working a 40-hour week being paid £7.50 an hour, you're not really going to be able to afford a house very quickly, are you? That's the problem, especially if you consider that per year sometimes houses are going up several grand, but your wages are stagnant. You've got a bit of a problem. I don't mind American gun laws, because I talk about stuff on this channel a lot. Personally, I think America's got quite good gun laws. Because, like I've said before, as much as people go on about school shootings and stuff like that, which is obviously a tragic and horrible thing, in the UK we have very strict weapon laws, but criminals will still get guns and everything on the black market. If you want an interesting figure, and I think they've stopped recording the statistics now because you can't easily find them, we have more gun violence per year now in the UK than at the height of when people could both legally and illegally own guns. So now that the supposedly, you know, nobody can have a pistol or whatever, we have more pistol shootings per year than we ever did when they were legal, which is, you know, crazy. But politicians will always ignore that because they're, you know, obsessed, like the war on drugs and everything else. That if you simply ban something, it goes away, or it doesn't. If there's a market for it, you know, you can make a lot of money on it. Yeah, I consider freezing to be well under zero, mate. Because yeah, like, even when the weather's like close to zero, I'd still be happy to be in a short and t-shirts. When it gets under, that's where I start putting maybe a jumper on. And then when it gets really cold, that's when I'd think about actually putting on cold weather gear. Who cries at Airsoft? I missed your previous thing. Yeah, that's insane. Is that? I take it when you say dollars, that's Australian dollars, which aren't quite as much as US dollars. But yeah, again, it's like, it's almost a false economy where you think, why do I want to try and move out when I'm basically, you know, you're going to spend so much money on doing it that, you know, it's insane. What I'm saying with the comments, if you read the description, I've put no like religious or political stuff. I don't mind getting into some subjects, but the point is lots of people keep trying to derail these streams where they start talking about like, oh, which political party are you going to vote for? And like, oh, are you a fan of Hitler? And it always turns into that sort of stuff. So that's why sort of Weapon Collector's done it on his channel as well, for the things that we just kind of warn people to stay away from that, just so it's easier if people start you know, bringing up too much politics. We can just kind of move the conversation away from it quickly and keep talking about more interesting stuff. Because, you know, politics is really depressing enough, I think, a lot of the time anyway. But what I will say is, yeah, well, this is the thing, we have lots of people immigrate to the UK temporarily from Poland to work, and then, you know, go back to Poland. I mean, that's not really good for the UK economy, but I don't have anything against Poles because they work quite hard and everything, you know. The thing is, like I was saying, with people like Poles and other people from Central and Eastern Europe, when they come to the UK, they don't really commit crimes. They come over here, they work hard, and then they leave. And while you would want the money going into the UK economy, you know, they're not causing any trouble. That's the thing. I'm yet to see, you know, Polish people starting fights. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but, you know, that's sort of the, you know, point I'm getting at. But yeah, like I was told that when I was in Poland, that because there's a lot of the old commie blocks still left, you can buy one of those, you know, even in Poland, supposedly for a couple of years worth of, you know, minimum wage work there. So if you want to just get into the housing ladder, you can at least get somewhere you can buy fairly cheaply. Whereas in the UK, you're going to have to be working all your life to afford a house unless you get a mortgage. And then there's lots of problems when you get a mortgage. Obviously, we had all the big banking crisis a few years ago, or a decade ago, whenever it was, where we had all those recessions because they lent people money who couldn't pay it back, and what a surprise, your economy collapses. Well, I know Australia's very strict because you had all the firearms bans as well that didn't work, where people didn't hand in firearms and just hid them instead. I'd love a Bren gun, deactivated Bren gun. I mean, there's pretty much most guns I'd love a deactivated one. I'd rather have a real one, mostly. We're in the UK, so that's not the question, but with most guns, it's like I'd want them. One of the really cool guns I was looking at a while ago, and I think sadly they all got sold and I didn't have the spare money to spend on them at the time, was oh, sorry, my mind's gone blank because that's the problem. You sometimes look at the chat, see another question, and it throws you off what you sort of saying. But yeah, it was the Set Me light rifles. This one Spain had for a while, like in the 90s, the 5.56 Set Me's. But they looked really futuristic and cool. So yeah, you know, that was the problem. But there's lots of, I mean, I've got the SLR, the Enfield, and the M1 Carbine, which are guns I really like. I've got a PPSH and an AK as well. I wouldn't mind like a classic AK as well, you know, like an AKM with the proper stock, especially if it had moving actions on it, but Yeah, so the thing, Peach, is it's the UK housing market is pretty much unaffordable. I've known lots of people that have moved out of their parents' house because they were so, you know, determined to become independent, and this is often like boyfriend and girlfriends. Like I've known friends that have done this and stuff, and then they found they're really struggling to actually keep it up, and then two things happen. They decide, we're not saving any money, you know, so we're actually worse off, so then they move back in with their parents because of that reason, or they end up splitting up and then they can't afford one of them to rent the house, so they have to move back in with their parents anyway. I mean, I'm lucky enough that our house isn't tiny. You know, my parents obviously are smart enough to realise that because the housing market is so fucked in the UK, you know, they shouldn't really expect me to move out, because I'm basically going to end up homeless, because I can be working, like I said, 40 hours a week, and I can be renting somewhere really grotty, and that's about it, in like probably the worst parts of the UK. What are you on about with Duke Wilhelm? We get Polish people do all sorts of jobs over here. It doesn't really matter. I mean, if they can find a job to do, they'll do it, because obviously the minimum wage in the UK is obviously higher than the minimum wage in Poland. So it makes sense for lots of people, because of EU travel laws, to come to the UK, save up money here if they can find somewhere really cheap to rent or whatever, or group rent a house, and then after a year or two go back to Poland or wherever else, and then you know, they've got money to spend. So it makes a lot of sense why they do it, and as I was saying, I don't have anything against Polish people at all who come over here, because they actually do work and they don't cause trouble. And like I said, the only issue is you obviously want money going back into your own economy, but you know, like I was saying, I don't want to keep going back into this, but at least they're working here. Yeah, I'm trying to think out of all the deactivated guns, the ones I can do the most with is the Enfield, because you can move the bolt on that. Sometimes it cocks, sometimes it doesn't. I have no idea how they deactivated it to make it do that. Trigger moves on the Enfield, safety moves on the Enfield. What else have I got? The AK, the charging handle's welded shut, but most of the internal components are in that. With the SLR, that's been welded weirdly. You can take some bits off and some bits not off. Alright, so yeah, if you're, as I said, I'll be going for an hour, so I'll tell you how much time's left, because I can check that on here. I've been going for 38 minutes now, so I'll be on for another 20 odd minutes. So far the chat's been very good, actually. Well, the thing with like airsoft guns, like I said, it's just with airsoft, you get an airsoft equivalent made by a good company that can make good airsoft guns of the gun you want to get. So if I was to get an airsoft gun with a UCARA, because I have an airsoft M4, but unfortunately it's two-tone, because of the stupid UK airsoft laws, if I eventually get my UCARA sorted, which is a pain in the ass to sort, because as I keep saying about airsoft, I don't have enough friends that regularly do it, so it's really hard to arrange to go on a day, you know, and then everybody, you know, who's there and everything else. So what I wanted to get as an airsoft gun is probably an airsoft AK-74, like one of the AK-74s with the plastic furniture on and all that sort of stuff, but it doesn't really matter with an airsoft gun, because if it's an airsoft electric gun, or an automatic electric gun, you basically want it to just be fairly accurate at the airsoft ranges, shooting around the same FPS as all the others, so it doesn't really, you know, really matter. It's more like a cosmetic thing of an airsoft gun, because they're always technically the same caliber. Interesting thing with the Tokyo Mario ones, however you pronounce it, is they're much weaker power-wise, because in Japan the airsoft restrictions are much higher than the UK. So in the UK it's not a good idea to get a Tokyo, because they're actually less powerful than a lot of the other brands. So you know, you're going to have an underpowered gun basically. One of my friends spent loads of money on a Tokyo one, and they regretted it because it was like so wimpy in power, because it had to comply with Japanese laws. Well, yeah, I did a video saying about that Berserk Jason Voorhees. Yeah, Marui sounds about right. I killed a wasp's nest in my garden by wearing one of my rubber NBC suits, so it did work for that. They weren't able to sting through it. So I think it would work fine, an NBC suit for beekeeping. Yeah, that's the thing, like Tokyo Marui, however it's pronounced. In the UK, they cost a lot more than a lot of the other brands of guns, and they're less powerful, because as I said, Japan has lower power limits than the UK has for airsoft guns. So if you end up buying a Tokyo one, you end up having less power and you pay more for the gun. Now, I know the quality control on them is absolutely excellent, but that does seem a bit weird, you know, spending more for something that doesn't even do the job you want it to do. GSR is bulkier and heavier than the M17. I did a video where I weighed both of those, actually. But yeah, I mean, the M17 is bulkier at the front, GSR is bulkier at the sides, but the GSR overall is bulkier. If you upgrade the spring in them, you can break some of the housing in the gun. Because I've spoken to people in airsoft shops about this. I'm not sure how much it is in joules, but in the UK I think it's 1 foot-pound for an airsoft gun. If it goes over 1 foot-pound, it's classified as an air rifle, not an airsoft gun, or an air pistol. Most UK airsoft sites let you have about 350 feet per second, between 300 and 350 feet per second on the rifles. If it's a sniper rifle, a lot of the sites have rules where it can go up to nearly 1000 FPS. However, they have lots of rules like sniper rifles where you can't shoot them at people under a certain range to stop injuries. But yeah, this is the thing, this is the one that really annoys me, is people keep going on the video where I said, you know, like, I wouldn't recommend an airsoft gun for self-defense. And they're like, well, I have an airsoft gun that shoots at 5000 FPS and steel BBs. Well, that's an air rifle then, isn't it? It's not an airsoft gun, because an airsoft gun is specifically one intended that it doesn't hurt anybody. Again, but if you're going to all that effort to spend loads of money on a Tokyo, spend loads of money upgrading it so it doesn't break, why wouldn't you spend less on a better quality gun that actually does what you want? That's why I just don't understand it. Yeah, most of the snipers, like I said here, are much more higher FPS. I know of like the ones that are closer to 1000 FPS, the BBs can actually embed in your skin, you know, and you have to kind of cut them out. Yeah, the UK doesn't have an FPS limit, it does it on like foot-pounds of energy, so a lightweight pellet going faster is the same foot-pounds as a heavier pellet going slower. Fairly hot today, my room's about 27 degrees, it's probably a bit over that outside, but the humidity is quite high. The humidity in my room's well over 60%, close to 70%. That's the thing I don't like, is the humidity. I assume you probably got a bruise, did you, on your head then, if you got shot in the head with no helmet on with an airsoft gun, but as long as it doesn't get you in the eye, obviously, or chip your teeth, you're mostly alright. But for those of you who didn't hear earlier, my Mark 7 helmet came today, so big thanks to everybody who supports me on Patreon or has donated in the Super Chats. The Mark 7's very nice. And it came with a helmet cover and the sort of scrimnet stuff on it as well. So it means I've now got like a competent combat helmet if anything ever kicks off, and it's nice to just have, you know, a modern high-end combat helmet. The Mark 7 is very similar to the second generation of Pascat helmet, same level of protection, a bit taller but a bit thinner, but you know, offers the same protection. It's got a very good harness in the Mark 7. The Mark 6 harness is crap, but the Mark 7's harness is really good. Moves just about enough that it wouldn't give you brain damage if you got hit in the head with it. But, you know, comfortable enough that it's not, like, shaking about on your head either. Yeah, I don't think I could put it with temperatures that hot. How humid does it get, though, in Australia? I mean, that is a bit absurd that you can't even buy helmets in Australia. Can you get motorcycle helmets though? Because obviously motorcycle helmet would work as a good defensive helmet, and I mean it's not obviously bulletproof, but I assume it would stop some shrapnel. And I can't really see them outlawing moped and motorcycle helmets. Yeah, I'm alright, thanks Maxwell. Over to my hay fever playing up a bit today. Oh, it's the Mark 7 helmet, then it's got the MTP, so the multi-terrain pattern cover on it, and then in the cover it's got a load of scrim and hessian sort of stuff in it, you know, like the shredded kind of camo stuff hanging off. So it makes it not look so much like a helmet, it makes it kind of look a bit more like a bush. It's also got the things around the outside so you can put branches and leaves in it and stuff as well. One of the reasons I ended up going for a Mark 7 and not a Pascut as well, like the M88 helmets, is because there's so many Airsoft versions of the Pascut. I was quite worried that, you know, you could easily get conned into buying an Airsoft one that was advertised as a real one. No, I do not have a K6 free helmet with visor. The only helmet I've got with a visor is my Riot helmet. My Mark 6 helmet has a Riot visor mount on it, but I don't have the visor it takes. Hello, Ivan. I think I saw a dead hornet once. Wasps are a pain in the arse, but I haven't seen any in a while. Like I said, if I get a wasp's nest in my garden, I'll put the NBC suit on so they can't sting me in a mask and just spray insecticide on it. So I'll nerve gas them. If you want something that's less poisonous than nerve gas, you can use rubbing alcohol, actually. That is really efficient at killing wasps. I kill wasps with rubbing alcohol quite a lot, because you can buy that very cheaply in jerry cans. And then I fill up a spray bottle with it, and then if there's ever like wasps and things, you can spray them with that. It kills them within seconds. And as I said, rubbing alcohol, I'm a lot less worried about that, the poison level of that, than I am about insecticides. Guns are not banned in England. Pistols are banned in England, unless you're a cop, obviously, with one, because they're exempt. Rifles can only be semi-automatic if they're in 22 LR, 22 long rifle. Although they might be moving to ban that now, because you can, like, legally at the moment you can still get Ruger 1022s, but I think they're trying to ban those. Bolt actions are pretty much legal in any caliber, but again I think they want to ban 50 BMG. Shotguns are legal, but you're restricted to 3 shot shotguns. So basically, single barrel, double barrel, and if you have a pump or automatic shotgun, it can only hold 3 rounds at once. You know, so they have to have the shorter tube magazines than like the US equivalents would have. Shotgun license is fairly easy to get, but I've never bothered getting one. Yeah, you can own 22 semi-automatics here. Ruger 1022s are pretty popular. But again, you have to jump through the paperwork hoops and kind of need a reason. Bye, Nia Papa. Oh, on the helmet, have a zipper on the side of the helmet. Yeah, I'd always worry that the sort of they'd fall out and you'd lose it if you put it in your helmet like that. If you're on about my Mark 7 helmet, filmed a video of it this morning, so that's up in about just over a week from today. Like I was saying, the M99 Barretts are one of the things they're trying to ban now, and I'd definitely not be granted the rights to have one, because I think they're only granted in like very certain circumstances. Like, it's one of those things you can technically... Yeah, well, YouTube is very bad for giving notifications. For most of my videos, I'd say bookmark my channel and then check it daily, because there's always a video on at 5 PM. Or I have a Twitter link to my YouTube, and then I never really post on the Twitter, so don't try and contact me on it, but it automatically posts a video there when I upload one. Warwick Arms WFA1. No, I haven't heard of that. No, I didn't see there was a new announced Elder Scrolls game. I saw they did announce a new Fallout game, but I'm assuming that's going to be some Battle Royale crap. I think we discussed this in the last stream. I'm glad I've just got the microphone on, because I'd get everybody saying, oh, you look really tired now, because I'm almost dozing off. I'm going to go get some more coffee in a minute, once I finish the stream. Yeah, like I said, 22 bolt actions are obviously a lot more accurate. With pretty much any caliber of firearm, a bolt action is always more accurate because you get more velocity behind a bullet as well, because you've got a totally sealed breech. And obviously the energy isn't being vented to recycle it as well, because you're cycling the action yourself. But the Ruger 1022s are popular just because they're like cheap plinking guns, basically. They're one of the most popular guns in the US, I believe, the 1022, just simply because, you know, you can get a load of mags for them. 22 long rifle is cheap to shoot, so you get them with the 22 long rifle and have fun plinking. Right, weird remix. I've warned people about political stuff. You do it again, you'll get a block, because obviously that's the kind of book that's, I think, illegal to own in lots of countries. So, last warning on that. Don't really know how I feel about bump stocks, because that's one of the few things in the US I can see why they made them illegal, or they're moving to make them illegal. Well, regardless, like I said, we're not talking about that sort of stuff, so, you know, stop it. Yeah, I'm not a fan of modern Bethesda stuff. I like Morrowind. I've tried playing some of Skyrim recently. I've sort of got into it a bit, but Bethesda is very much, how can we make our games appeal to a mass market now, not actually making a good game. I actually have no idea about bump stocks in the UK, because I've never heard them mentioned before. But, yeah, I think they are trying to make them illegal in the US, and it's one of the things where I can understand the mentality behind it, because it's basically letting you fire off a semi-automatic rifle far, far faster than you should be able to. Flamethrowers are legal in the US. I don't actually know about the UK. I think under certain gardening rules they might be legal. You know, for like people clearing lots of brush or something, but your regular person wouldn't be able to buy a flamethrower. Vehicles, yeah. Well, military vehicles have an overpressure system where they have basically filters that suck in a lot of air and then make the vehicle positive pressure. So basically air escapes from the vehicle like a positive pressure mask. Peach, go and play Morrowind, please. If you've only the only Elder Scrolls game you've played is Skyrim, see if you can get and play Morrowind, because it will feel a lot more clunky than Skyrim, but there's like 3 times as many skills, way more armor and equipment, far more quests, loads more dialogue, although it's not like voice acted dialogue. You know, it's like where you talk to an NPC and you can talk to them about loads and loads of subjects. Morrowind was Bethesda's best RPG by a mile, because it was the one where you had the most player choices in it and you could do the most interesting character builds. You know, lots of the quests had several ways of solving them. And then sadly what they did over time was they tried to make the games more appealing to a wide market, you know, where you could play it without really thinking about what you were doing. With cars I kind of like hot hatches, that's why I had a Golf GTI, but I need to sell it. But in the UK there's lots of stuff that's technically classed as a firearm, which is not a firearm because of our stupid laws. Like, basically pepper spray is classed as a firearm in the UK, tasers are classed as firearms in the UK, air rifles over 12 foot-pounds are classed as firearms in the UK. So, again, it's like, yes, of course it's not a firearm, but to the government that doesn't matter. Well, weird remix, no, because you can't openly talk about politics properly on YouTube. So, I don't want to get into this whole thing. Tell you what, you know, like I said, you've had enough warnings, to be honest, so... Like I said, we don't talk about it, you have to keep bringing it up. Now, I've got lots of jet lighters, which are technically like mini flamethrowers, but... I mean, in theory, somebody could fill a super soaker with something, couldn't they? And then spray that out with a little light on the bottom as well. Yeah, we only had 2 mass shootings in the UK, or technically 3, but 2. The ones we had was first Hungerford, where they banned semi-automatic rifles, because I think he used an M1 carbine and might have been an AR-15 for that. Then after Hungerford, we had the Dunblane school shooting, and the problem was, like with a lot of school shootings in the US, both the people who did the shootings were known to the police, known to be really dodgy people, yet they didn't take their firearms away when they had plenty of warning. Then, you know, when they did a shooting, it was used as justification why they should do knee-jerk bans. And that's the thing I really don't like about lots of these things, is if the police and everybody were doing their jobs better, lots of these people wouldn't have been granted a firearms license in the first place. Well, most of those bong masks are basically moulds from an Israeli 4A1, where they've just put a bong on it, but I don't have one. I got my riot shield on eBay, mate. Yeah, because Skyrim is like very casualised. That's the problem with it. It's designed so people who've never played an RPG before can get into it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's kind of like only watching cape shit action films, isn't it? I'll tell you how much time's left, 1 second. About 5 minutes or so's left on the chat. I'd say Land Rovers. I actually probably know what Land Rovers are, but I like the classic Land Rovers, not the modern ones. Because, as I said, the GSR looks cool, even if it's a crap mask. What have I been playing at the moment? As I said, I've been getting into Skyrim. I've been playing some Warhammer Armageddon, which is kind of like Warhammer tabletop, 40k tabletop, but on stuff. I think I was playing a bit of Dawn of War 2 recently, but I'm not enjoying that loads because Dawn of War 2 is too rock, paper, scissors-y to be all that enjoyable. But I've got loads of games on my Steam library, but doesn't mean I always play them. But yeah, if you can get Morrowind, Mike, it's definitely worth a play. I don't know how good the Xbox version is compared to the actual PC version. Do you know if the Xbox version comes with the expansion packs, or is it just the base game? Yeah, I've played Fallout 3, it's nowhere near as good as New Vegas. There's bits I like about Fallout 3, but again, New Vegas wasn't made by Bethesda, and that's why the quests have way more, you know, options. There's far more quests in the game. I've played Quake 2, 3 and 4. I don't think I've ever played the original Quake. It's alright. It's a bit like, you know, Doom and everything else. I've never really played the online Quake stuff too much, so, you know. I played Unreal Tournament as well, which is fairly similar. Alright, who are you replying to, Peach, with the stuff about oral nasal cups and anti-fogging paste? Yeah, that's the thing. Fallout 3 does do a lot of stuff quite well, but the issue is lots of the RPG skills are implemented very weirdly into it, to say the least. And there's lots of quests that just feel way too linear. There's lots of missed opportunities. With both Fallout 3 and 4, Point Lookout and Far Harbor were far better than the base games, because they added far more RPG choices, and they had a much smaller, detailed map, rather than just a big map that's empty for loads of it. I liked Far Cry the original. Far Cry 2 kept giving me headaches. It's the only game that's ever done that. Far Cry 3 was alright. I bought Far Cry 4 and barely played it, and haven't looked at any of the Far Cry games since. I have no interest in them, really. I don't do schedules for streams, I just do streams when I can, and I've noticed when people schedule the streams more, that's when they normally have more people trying to raid the stream, which has been a bit of a problem for me and Mike on some of our streams. So I'd rather just do a stream when I feel like it, and then the people who can come on can come on. The other thing as well is, by doing streams sometimes in the evening, sometimes in the afternoon, it means people in different time zones can sometimes catch a stream, whereas if I only ever do them in the evening or whatever, it means often people, you know, like the Australians and whatever else, it's probably not great for them. Yeah, I've played RuneScape. I think I've still got a RuneScape account I log into every now and then, but there are mods for the PC version that put iron sights back into Fallout 3, but yeah, it does annoy me there's no iron sights in Fallout 3, and it's, you know, it's far more down to a shooting stat if you can hit people rather than like New Vegas, where when you like hip fire it's less accurate and it's more down to your firearm stat, but when you use the iron sights it's more your skill at actually aiming it. Don't think I've played any of the Brothers in Arms. I've played Company of Heroes, I don't think I've played Brothers in Arms. Oblivion's alright. Oblivion is much closer to Morrowind than Skyrim is. I mean, the main thing I hate with Oblivion is just how bad the level scaling is, because Bethesda have this hard-on for level scaling that's awful. Yeah, so today's not a good time for people in Australia, so when I do the evening streams it's actually probably better than for them, but you know what I'm getting at as an example. Because of all the different time zones, if I do streams at different times now and again, it means some of my subscribers from around the world can, you know, watch better. Battlefield, I liked Bad Company 2 a lot. I like the older Battlefield games, but Battlefield, what was it, Battlefield 3, the one after Bad Company 2? I didn't like that, never tried 4. Battlefield 1 looks sort of alright, but they didn't release it on Steam, so I wouldn't buy it. New Battlefield, it looks like an SJW game, so I've got no interest in it. No, the COD games I played, I stopped at Modern Warfare 3, because it's just copy and paste crap, isn't it, with Call of Duty? But I think we're coming up to an hour now, aren't we? Yep, it's just gone over an hour, so does anybody else have any quick questions for me before I wrap the stream up? Yeah, I sort of play piano, and I play piano badly. I don't have any interest in the Daedra stuff in Elder Scrolls, mate. I don't find the lore very interesting in it, to be honest. I just like the gameplay. I know there's lots of lore and backstory, but I've just never been into it. Nagants are fine. Most bolt-action rifles, I think, are pretty good. You know, there's not a massive difference between bolt actions. I mean, you've got Lee Enfield, short magazine Lee Enfields, which were 10-round bolt actions. So they're, you know, like, they've got an advantage that way. Things like the Springfield are really high velocity bolt actions, so flat trajectory. But yeah, Nagants are fine, Mausers are fine, you know, but there's nothing really stand out about them other than they made them really cheaply. Like I said, the USM40, I don't own one, so I can't give a proper opinion on it, but they made it out of silicon, which was a big mistake, and one of the reasons they had to get the M50 faster than they should have done. Don't think anybody in the Elder Scrolls is attractive, are they? Bethesda's people always look like fudgy monsters. Yeah, I like Arma 2. Arma 3 I was a bit disappointed by. I like the really old Arma game, Operation Flashpoint, Cold War Assault. Basically that one, then Arma 2, but Arma 1 I didn't particularly like, and Arma 3 I don't particularly like. Anyway, I think that about wraps it up, so thanks everybody on the stream. As said, I only had to block one person this stream, and that was just because he wouldn't leave the politics questions alone and kept talking about illegal books, which is why I removed his original comment. As said, don't know if I have time to do another stream this week, we'll have to see, but thanks everybody, and I'm glad for the most part it's been a good stream where people haven't caused problems. But yeah, I've got videos already scheduled for every day, you know, for about a week and a bit. But yeah, see everybody.